Before you respond, let's listen to some of this testimony from Capitol Hill yesterday.
My name is Viola Ford Fletcher. I'm the daughter of Lucinda Ellis and John Wesley Ford of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm the sister of Hughes Van Ellis, who is also here today. I'm a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday. The night of the massacre, I was awakened by my family. My parents and 5 siblings were there. I was told we had to leave, and that was it. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. I will not, and other survivors do not, and our descendants do not.
The old saying, Michael, is what's understood need not be spoken. And so connecting this to Colin Kaepernick, I hear you, brother. I really do. I hear you. You still want it. You want that acknowledgement. You want to hear it. You want to hear more than, or see more than just end racism in the end zone, or it takes all of us.
Yeah.
You know, I get you. But they've shown their true colors time and time again. And so I guess I'm just not holding my breath on the league. 32 individual corporations coming together and saying, yeah, we know what it looks like when Tim Tebow, even at a different position, gets another opportunity. And the leader of this movement that we've jumped on board as comfortably and conveniently as possible, the leader of this movement remains unemployed and his career was ended prematurely. I've never expected that from them. To me, that's expecting way too much of people who've shown themselves to not be at that level of honesty.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm not holding my breath. I guess what I'm doing is I'm not holding my breath, but my eyes aren't going forward. My eyes are rolling every time we have these conversations. That's what it is. Now, on the clip that we just showed, God bless her, 107 years old.
All right? 107.
The fact, now let me just get this straight. The United States of America has not acknowledged the Tulsa race riots? There's no acknowledgement that it actually happened?
Not formally.
Is that?
Not formally. And certainly no reparations for it. And certainly no reparations for it. It's been buried history. But Michael, they're burying, you know what I mean by they're burying history from January 6th.
For January 6th.
Hell yeah.
Which is just.
I mean, of course they're ignoring this part of this country's history, because it's the same reason they don't want to teach critical race theory. It's the same reason they don't want to teach slavery. It's the same reason Nicole Hannah-Jones, Pulitzer Prize winning writer for the 1619 Project, it's the same reason she's denied tenure at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is because acknowledging this country's true history strikes at the heart and undermines the idea that white people pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, that white people built this on their own ingenuity and their own persistence and their own genius, and that this country was not built on the backs of slaves on stolen land. American exceptionalism cannot coexist with an actual acknowledgement of the atrocities of slavery and systemic racism throughout this country's history. It can't coexist, because they'd be like, well, wait a second, you mean I didn't get this on my own? You mean I have an advantage? Damn you! They say, damn you, I got an advantage. No, I don't have an advantage. My parents came from Europe, or my parents came to this country and we worked for it. Maybe you did. But as MLK said, you had boots. Meanwhile, bootless people have been told to pull their boots, pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anybody who doesn't want to thoroughly examine how they got to the position they're in is not really serious. I just don't understand. Let's go with January 6th. We can't really have a conversation. Remember we were talking about that before? I said my icebreaker was, do you believe the election was stolen?
Was the election stolen?
Somebody,
right, yeah.
Yeah. And if somebody says yes, then I know, okay, that's my exit. I'm done. Because I'm not even going to get it. I'm not going to engage in that. It's not worth it because that person does not want to be educated on it. That person doesn't want to look at information. So I just don't have time. I don't have time for it. But now my new icebreaker was January 6th, was that an insurrection? Because if you say that wasn't an insurrection, I don't know what you're looking at. The information is out there. It was not made up. This is not trick photography. Okay, what is that? That's not a friendly meeting right there. As we look at the headline, the House is passing a bill to create a January 6th commission, and the GOP is against it. It's going to die in the Senate,
right? Yeah,
yes.
And it's going to die in the Senate.
It probably will. And listen, I don't know if I don't know why you don't want to call it an insurrection. Call it what it was.
Oh, I know
why. But tell
why.
me, and Gary. Well, before you get to your answer, Gary, we have the sound. I believe it's from one of the Capitol Police officers who was talking about the insurrection, which is what it was, the insurrection on January 6th, and just the effects it had on him. Take a listen to this.
It was saying how Joe Biden did not win the election and nobody voted for him. So I took the bait and okay, what about me? I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count?
This is when Officer Dunn encountered a couple in the crowd who began hurling the most vile of racial slurs at him, a black officer.
And his girlfriend, she had on a pink MAGA shirt. He said, hey, this voted for Joe Biden, guys. Hey, everybody, this voted for Joe Biden. They said, you.
So the crowd joined in.
Everybody joined in with him.
Real talk, when it registered to you what had been said to you, you're a law enforcement officer. You're in the Capitol defending the Capitol. And somehow race seeped into that too.
Everybody wants to say that it was about politics and everything, but it was a large number of people in that crowd that were racist.
A large number? That's conservative.
So,
you weren't a cop in that moment.
Yeah, that's right.
He wasn't a law enforcement officer in that moment.
You said that's conservative. No pun intended. That's conservative. Yes, it is.
No pun intended. Yeah.
Mike, if that's not an insurrection, if an attack on the Capitol is not an attack on the Capitol, if people aren't running, if police officers don't feel like they're in danger, so what was it then? What happened?
It's not.
Was it the blip?
It's an insurrection.
Was it a blip?
It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective. That's like saying if I pushed you dead in the chest with two hands, and I decided to say, "Oh, well, you ran into my arms." It's like it's not an insurrection because
that's normal.
They believe in the cause. It's not. They believe in the cause. The members of the GOP who will not identify it as an insurrection, the people who want to call it just a glorified, tour of the Capitol, it's not an insurrection because they side with the cause. For the same reason that with Colin Kaepernick, going back to him, it was never about his protest. It was never about his posture. And as we well know, it was never about the anthem, the flag, or the military. It was simply about the cause. Because again, as whether it's Andrew Brown Jr. being shot in the head while sitting in his car, stationary, not moving, but shot in the back of the head, I beg your pardon, let me be specific, shot in the back of the head, or whether it's now Ronald Green, who 2 years ago, we're just seeing the video now, Ronald Green in Louisiana, leading police on a high-speed chase, giving up, saying he was scared, apologizing for being drugged, tasered, beaten, and left for dead and later dying, where even the doctors knew what time it was. And the police, once again, wait for it, lying on it in the official report, or lying about it in the official report. It's like time after time, Colin Kaepernick has been proved to be right that there was an issue that needed to be addressed and people's attention needed to be brought to, but they just ain't trying to hear it. They wasn't trying to hear it then. They ain't trying to hear it now. Next week is going to be the anniversary of George Floyd's murder. There's an unofficial deadline to try to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act done. And we're compromising, by we, I mean Democrats, but Jim Clyburn is compromising on qualified immunity. Because they still ain't trying to hear it. Still trying to dance around it. So, yeah, you know.
Well, you know what? If you try to dance around it,
with this whole conversation, Michael, whether it's police brutality, whether it's the history of this country, or to bring it back full circle, Colin Kaepernick's being banned from the league, it's about acknowledgement, and it's more than just acknowledging that an injustice was committed, a crime was committed, or something was done wrong. Insofar as acknowledging, that's why I never believe that we'd ever see reparations, because it's more than just acknowledging it. Now you have to recognize a shortcoming in yourself. You have to recognize that this country isn't all it's cracked up to be, or was cracked up to be. It's revisionist history is being written in lieu of the uncomfortable truth and the uncomfortable history that people like Nicole Hannah-Jones have laid out so brilliantly.
Well, and yes, she has. And I just want to say just a couple of things. We start off talking about Tim Tebow. We got here, and that's fine. I took us here. So what? This is the beauty of the show. A couple of things that go along with the tangents that all feed into like a larger tapestry. One, Nicole Hannah-Jones. Let me say this as a journalist. If Nicole Hannah-Jones does not deserve tenure at North Carolina, I would suggest that nobody, right. No professor there does.
Right. There should be no such thing as tenure.
If she is not worthy of tenure at North Carolina, nobody is worthy of tenure at North Carolina.
And
I don't know what you're looking at.
Let me ask you a question. Who looks worse now? Who looks worse? Is Nicole Hannah-Jones any less qualified or less renowned today? Whose credibility has been hurt? Her by being denied tenure at UNC, or UNC for caving to some corners of conservative criticism after their department had already approved it? Like,
and think about.
Did I ever tell you that I wanted to go to UNC? Did I ever tell you that, Michael? Did I ever tell you that because of Michael Jordan, mainly because of Michael Jordan, but also Stuart Scott, really good journalism department, I wanted to go to UNC Chapel Hill coming out of high school. Today, I'm glad I didn't. Today, I'm glad they weren't giving money to out-of-state students.
You know who else wanted to go to North Carolina? And did? Nicole Hannah-Jones. That's her alma mater, which makes it even worse. So wait a minute. You're North Carolina. You've got a great journalism department. You're trying to advertise all the things that you have done outside of Chapel Hill. What have I done? What have I done? Well, here's one of your own. Coming back to have a tenured position, she thinks, and then that thing gets pulled away at the last minute. But journalism, it's funny that this is happening to a journalist, because what the school's message is, we don't like examination. We don't want you to examine the facts. Why are you going back to 1619? Leave that alone. Why are you messing with history?
Why are you going back to January 6th?
Yeah.
Leave that alone.
Or January 6th. Right. Why are you taking your lens? Why are you taking your lens and thinking critically and asking tough questions and putting things into context? A journalist. So you don't have, what you're doing is you're putting not Nicole Hannah-Jones's reputation in question.
Correct.
You're putting your own as an institution that supposedly promotes free thinking, free thought, and journalism, the power of the press. So what you're saying is the Board of Trustees, if it gets a little too hot, if it gets a little too uncomfortable, the Board of Trustees in North Carolina can shut it down. Now, I know, just to be fair, North Carolina officially hasn't had any comment on this. So there are lots of reports that this is what happened, that this is a conservative Board of Trustees, because the right ain't feeling 1619, ain't feeling Nicole Hannah-Jones, so they got their eye on her. but they have not officially said that's what happened. So I'll be fair and say allegedly, this is the
That's
story.
good journalism on your part.
This is the story.
That's good journalism on your
Check it out. Peep that, North Carolina.
Right.
Peep that. It's
That's
good journalism.
right.
But the other thing I would say about the insurrection, real quick, January 6th, don't ever say, if you are a member of the GOP, don't ever say it's inexcusable like they did, like Mitch McConnell did on the night it happened. They tried to attack democracy. They failed. All that stuff. No, stop. Because if you want to acknowledge this as an insurrection, if you want to acknowledge this as a threat to democracy, what you're saying is, it's your party. This is your party. You're embracing it. You don't want to look at what happened, what caused it. This is your party. It's a GOP convention. It was January 6th. January 6th was a GOP convention. That's
You know I gotta laugh? Hey, roll the music, Gary. You know I gotta laugh? This was Chris Rock. This was Chris Rock. We was talking about getting your house robbed. You ain't see Ish because you was doing Ish.
Because you was doing it. Hey, how about this? I heard you got robbed.
Yeah. I heard somebody storm the Capitol. Woo. Sounds like that was crazy. It's an inside job, man. And look, they ain't trying to acknowledge it because it's incriminating. Oh my gosh.